think we can start.
Good evening, everyone. I am Simar Motiani, and I welcome you to this conversation with Raina Singhwi Jain and Siddharth Lulla for the newly launched book called The Golden Bird 2.0 Resurgence of India. The Golden Bird 2.0 draws from India's rich past to take a fresh look at its potential for a glorious future, a second golden age, shaped by powerful public will, economic wherewithal, and the nation's status as the world leader. What made ancient India the golden bird in the first place? What did China, the land of the dragon, have in common with India? And when did these two ancient civilizations diverge on their paths of global success? While colonization pressed the brakes on India's confidence and self-reliance, China emerged from imperialism with a clear vision for its future and strong implementation to boot. The Oriental superpower fashioned itself as the world's factory, creating jobs and uplifting millions of people from poverty. How did China make its mark on the world stage? And where did India fall behind? How can India tap into its golden past to pave the way for a brighter future? Can Aatmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India usher a new era of economic growth and leadership? A closer look to our journey since the independence reveals the gaps that we need. Can we draw from the vision of and the ideals of our own freedom struggles to build the next phase in our future? Raina Singhwi Jain, in her book, discusses the immediate need for a quantum jump in our attitude towards development. While conventional wisdom suggests improvements in manufacturing, the ease of doing business, and digital technology, Raina delves deeper to draw surprising parallels in other areas that beg our attention, such as process engineering, communication design, journalism, decentralization of power, and even disaster management. She presents research and insights on entrepreneurship, trade, and education, challenges us to reconsider our chalta hai attitude, and reveals how we can turn our immense diversity and this stopgap approach to problem solving into a tool for advancement. With inspiration from the past and an earnest look at the present, the Golden Bird 2.0 suggests the paradigm shifts that the Indian mindset can make towards a remarkable progress. This book is a work of reflection and a call to action, urging Indian citizens right now to act for the revival of the genius that lies dormant within each one of us. And now I would like to introduce Raina Singhwi Jain, the author. Raina was born in Pondicherry. Growing up in Tamil Nadu was a living lesson for young Raina to embrace multiple worlds and cultural acceptance as the only way forward for an entrepreneurial and, more importantly, human endeavor. Raina polished her life skills with a bachelor's degree in business management and an MSc in international business from the Manchester Business School, University of Manchester, UK. She subsequently returned to the country and spent 2 years working with Google in Hyderabad. Eventually, the family business beckoned, and she joined her father's enterprise of dry flowers called Ramesh Flowers Private Limited, which is now owned by the Gala Group from Germany. The rigorous hours spent in factories of the family business, managing over 3,000 employees, became her training ground. She learned a lot about human resources, compliance, manufacturing, marketing, interpersonal relationships, and general business dynamics, leading to the 12 years that she has spent in honing the organization. Always one for a challenge, Raina initiated, conceptualized, and runs the e-commerce brand called Maiva in India for the Gala Group, and she heads their sales across the country. Maiva soon grew to become a widely recognized brand and has an enviable consumer presence amongst the predominantly B2B offerings of the parent organization. Maiva has made luxury candles an essential part of each and every household and continues to grow under her guidance. Rena resides with her husband, son, and parents in law in Bangalore. It was during the times of COVID and this lockdown that she took to writing her book, The Golden Bird 2.0 Resurgence of India. Welcome, Rena.
Thank you, Simar.
Now, I would like to introduce our second panelist who's here with us, Siddharth. Siddharth Lulla is a finance and marketing major with several years of business building and consulting experience behind him. Having completed his MBA from the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad and an international exchange program for UC Berkeley's Hart School of Business, Siddharth has been instrumental in leading business diversification of the coveted label Neeta Lulla, one of India's leading couture brands. He has set up a mass of premium apparel name as well as a pan-India presence and a fashion education venture. Having spent time with a varied section of stakeholders in the apparel and textile industry, which include brands, manufacturers, job workers, fashion buyers, retailers, and others, his experience has given him a holistic overview of the opportunities and challenges in the industry, not only on business building side, but also in understanding where the industry stands with respect to its sustainability agenda, interest areas in circular value chain, as well as challenges in adopting a circular innovation strategy. Currently, he is also working as a consultant to drive sustainable business practices in the apparel and textile industry. Welcome, Siddharth.
Thank you, Simon.
I would like to begin with a question for Rena. Rena, please tell me, how have you come up with this book, being from the business background that you are from? And this book speaks about political science, economics, and hardcore issues that the country is currently facing. Was it a tough one? Tell us a little about your journey so far.
Simar, first of all, thank you for moderating this event and the wonderful introduction for me and my book. I'm thankful also to Crossword bookstores for giving me this platform to showcase my book, The Golden Bird 2.0 Resurgence of India. And I have to welcome and thank Siddharth for giving his precious time today for this event. I've known him for a few years now, and he's truly an inspiration for the youth of India. Thank you, Siddharth. Coming to your question, Simar, I do come from an hardcore business background, from my education to my work experience. So getting into economics and political science was something that I never thought of. It was purely my interest that pushed me into this, and I'm so happy that I did. I know a lot more about my country now than I ever did. Was it tough? Well, yes, a little bit, as I had to start from the very beginning, and this involved crazy reading, watching so many interviews, understanding of so many new concepts, and then syncing that with my life experiences and then reproducing it in the form of a book. But I must say, it's been a great journey so far.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Siddharth, my next question is for you. The more we hear on Aatmanirbhar Bharat, the more is the emphasis on the startups in India. So many stimulus packages have been rolled out as a part of this campaign to help micro and small entrepreneurs to get access to finance. With the current economic mess that the COVID-19 pandemic has created, do you feel we are on the right track? And what, for you, should be done to accelerate growth in this segment? Also, how else do you think the youth of this country can be motivated towards building a future for themselves?
First of all, thank you, Simar, for asking that question. I think it's very comprehensive, and I'm going to try my best to, share my thoughts on this one. So first of all, the entire COVID scenario has been a very tough scenario for MSMEs, and I can say that firsthand because I work closely with MSMEs, and a lot of them are really manufacturers, distributors for my company. Uh, we've seen a lot of shutting of factories, disruptions of supply chain, decrease in sales in non-essential items, due to the extended lockdown. As a result of which, business activities has come to a halt, or the entire liquidity scenario, uh, has excavated. It's in a very bad shape. And I don't know, how many of you all are aware, but 40% of India's GDP is from the MSME sector, and that is a huge proportion. So the Aatmanirbhar stimulus package, which the finance minister announced, is a very good stimulus package in terms of, I think from the numbers, it's a 20 lakh crore stimulus package. However, we've seen an MSME decline of around 20 to 50% in terms of the growth of these companies. The revenues are down by 20 to 50%, which are huge numbers. And in terms of implementation and action, the thoughts are great. But the question remains to be seen. How is the entire fund flow liquidity, really perlocated down to these small businesses? The mechanisms employed to ensure that the right businesses get it, and the right people who need the money get it. I think that is going to be very crucial. The other thing also which I want to say is that this is also an opportunity for a lot of new businesses, a lot of youth, a lot of MSMEs, because the way we do business today is going to change. I think all of us have aligned to this new digital scenario. And while things as normal, a lot of things may come back, but a lot of things are going to change in the consumption pattern, the way we buy things, the way we conduct businesses. And for this, there are 3, 4 important things which I personally feel are important. So one is skill development. For new businesses coming out, what is the kind of skill development which is required? Are there certain digital skills required? Are there some new businesses which have not been done before, where people will be taught how to do it? Certain ERP softwares. This is for the first time that I'm looking at StreamYard as a digital platform. This is a way of conducting business. Are there special resources required for that? The technology advancements and digitization of business operations to ensure that there's rapid business happening online. Ensuring there's an ease of doing business. You don't have to go physically to get your paperwork done. You have to ensure that everything can be done digitally online, including your filing for paperwork or exports, or just the number of licenses that you need to apply for. You can just do it online. A single window clearance, if that can be implemented fast. And more crucially, I also feel very strongly that it's also our responsibility as an Indian consumer to focus on purchasing Indian goods and Indian products at this stage. Because as Indian consumers, we need to be the ones who are really pushing and promoting Indian products. At the same time, from the Indian government standpoint, it's also important that we have the ability to implement advancements and to ensure that manufacturing setups or service operations can be done in a quick and rapid manner. So this is what my personal view is on this specific aspect.
Thank you, Siddharth. There's a lot of noise behind me, so I'm going to be muting myself in between.
So I hope you could hear me though.
Yes, I could. And thank you for that answer. Just taking that question one step further, I'd like to direct this to Raina actually. Speaking about startups, one interesting aspect that you have mentioned in your book is the importance of implementation of sustainability measures, right? And specifically at the time of setting up a business, as Siddharth said, the ease of doing business. Coming back to sustainability, why as a concept is sustainability so important today?
Today, 7 of the most populated cities out of the top 10 globally are situated in India. Gurugram has been ranked as the single most populated place on the planet. Delhi now ranks as the worst populated capital city. And if we take a step back and look at the 30 worst cities in terms of this metric, 22 of them are from India. So this means that the problem is not restricted to certain areas or cities or just certain industrial belts, but it's fairly widespread. So we know that industries thrive on natural resources, and they have been thriving on natural resources for centuries now. And we have to pay a price for it, and that's pollution, waste, degradation of land, water bodies. For the longest time, the damage seemed negligible. So, I mean, we kind of ignored it. But now we've reached a point of no return. So, if we do not protect the environment and our natural resources, even the strongest and the most advanced economy will come to naught. So, human civilization itself depends on the continued stability of our ecology and the natural world. And if a disaster has to strike at this level, not only does it threaten a particular community or a nation, it puts in question the very existence of the human race. I'll tell you, a recent survey uh, by the Global Compact Network India shows that most startup and young business owners, um, or the top leadership that run them, do not face pressure from investors to make a substantive shift towards core sustainability. Therefore, most CEOs are only focused on ensuring minimum regulatory compliance, and they do not bother with additional measures. And a prime factor, of course, here is also the costs associated with such implementations. Our MSMEs, which form the backbone of the Indian economy, fall within this category. And this is a significant problem. Without bringing a transformation in this space, we cannot meaningfully transition into a green economy. And unless we rectify this attitude and offer the right kind of incentives, it is going to be very difficult to change the behavior of these organizational leaders and entrepreneurs. And with our population soaring high, this is something that I keep saying in all my interviews. With India moving towards a space where we are going to become the most populated country very soon, the demand for every resource, energy, electricity, water, food, and so forth, is going to grow manifold. And also, India's economy is highly susceptible to damage from climate change. It is said that India in the last decade has booked economic losses worth $79.5 billion because of, damages pertaining to climate change and environmental factors. So our stakes are very high. And certain Indian businesses have been actively integrating sustainability best practices within their supply chains. They've incorporated systems on energy saving, water conservation, development of sustainable products, reduction of the carbon footprint as part of the operations. And the good news is that this approach has actually helped them improve their return on investment, and has actually helped them add value to their product lines. So, thus, contrary to popular belief, investments in sustainability can actually boost profitability. So, the onus of not only making India Aatmanirbhar, but also making it a green economy largely lies with the MSMEs.
Thank you. My next question actually is taking that further, speaking about a green economy. Can you emphasize on the importance of the CEMs and how has it changed the dynamics of measuring sustainability?
Let me,
Where are we exactly?
sorry.
Yeah, sure. No, go ahead. I'll get to the next one.
Um, okay, so let me begin with the SEMS. SEMS is one of the most important tools we currently have. What does SEMS do? It allows us to closely monitor air and water pollution levels. The data in the system flows in real time. So immediate responses can be made if the quantity of pollution goes beyond a desired threshold. But what is unfortunate is that, as per one of the recent reports that was released in February this year, 2020, almost 18% of the industries were found to flout the norms, and they have not complied to the regulations. So we do have good systems in place, but we do also have cases where, we there is the cooperation lacks. And I think the question that you were going to ask me was, where are we exactly? I just heard that part of it. So where are we exactly with
On the
this
map,
sustainability?
yes, a green economy, and where, as you mentioned, a few points where we lag behind. I think that was where I was trying to get
Okay.
to.
Okay. So, where are we as Indians on this whole sustainability map? Let me tell you something interesting. Did you know that an average American produces 8 times more municipal solid waste than an average Indian? An average European produces far more e waste than the average Indian. And an average Indian uses fewer plastic materials than the average Westerner. In spite of this, the situation in India with respect to waste management is disheartening. The waste generated by urban India today, it stands at 62 million tons annually. And it is said that by 2030, these numbers could also hit 165 million tons. And why just urban India? Even the least educated citizen in Western countries is taught how to segregate waste. Conversely, we do not invest in such awareness initiatives. Instead, for most Indians, despite being aware, it feels like too much of an effort. The government of India is taking several initiatives to put this in check. But such projects can never be successful until citizens actively believe in the cause and engage with these campaigns. Until they themselves want to build upon these values and make them part of how they go about their everyday lives. Each of us must realize the threats that we face over the long run, and what would really happen if we don't take care of this right now. Detrimental health outcomes, we are already facing this. Unaffordable food prices, loss of employment, food insecurities, and environmental and economic disasters. And we are already witnessing a lot of this. So, these cannot be what we want for the future of our great nation. So, we have the ability to create an economy that integrates respect for nature, and respect for nature is a vital part of the Indian culture. So we surely have a very, very long way to go.
And just to add to what Rena is saying, so one of the issues that we face with the sustainability assessment tools is that most of them are self-assessment tools. There aren't proper audit systems in place to really measure it. So if you ask me how much waste I'm producing, I'm going to definitely give you a figure which is much lower. When it comes to even plastic waste or plastic consumption, the average Indian produces around 11 kilos, which is much lesser than what an average European or average US would produce, US citizen would produce. But the issue is that we also have, a much larger population, living on one third the amount of land. So automatically our resources have that much more pressure, and as a result of which, the amount of waste that we are really producing is immense. And if you look at the textile and apparel industry, India is really the dumping ground of a lot of waste textile, which comes on a yearly or a monthly basis. So all the European waste which is really there is coming to India. So that is a key concern.
So, Siddharth, how as businesses must we ensure that we in India can build a sustainable future for ourselves? We pointed out all the issues. What are the steps we can take?
So first of all, it's very crucial for us to focus on this because climate change and global warming is a reality. If you look at it that perspective, we've had the 10 hottest days in India in the last 10 years itself. Your entire seasonal monsoons, our entire weather patterns have changed, which is detrimental to the crops. It's detrimental to our food produce, and ultimately it is going to impact our consumption pattern. It's going to affect that. Now the thing is that we are very realistically going to see an increase in temperature around 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 100 years. And this is an acceleration which has never really happened in the last 10,000 years. So that's how bad the situation is. And businesses need to act on this today. But first and foremost thing is from an organization perspective, it's our onus, as the youth of this country, to realign the organizations that we work in, the brand ethos. If we are building companies like this, like you mentioned, Raina is leading a company which has 3,000 employees, to really take a small, strong stance on sustainability as well as social environmental issues and create that awareness amongst her employees, amongst her community about the importance of sustainability. That is step number one, really. And then, secondly, focusing towards building sustainable practices and behavior. So it could be, let's say, tackling or removing excess waste from your delivery processes by choosing sustainable alternatives, like let's say recycled plastic packaging. Or it could be reducing the amount of energy that your overall business consumes by adopting simple things like LED lights, or ensuring that there are good habits of recycling paper which is wasted, reusing that back in the system. Reducing the organization's carbon footprint for logistics by shifting from conventional fuel to electric vehicles, similar to what Flipkart and Amazons of the world are doing at this point in time. And also from an input perspective, and I can speak a lot on this on the textile and apparel industry, but I'll avoid that today. Ensuring that the amount of inputs that you have or the kind of inputs that you're using are renewable in nature. The other thing which is very important, and this is on the government, is to ensure that some of the policies that have been implemented are adopted. So in Sweden, we see that Sweden has a law that you cannot really use virgin plastic anymore for the packaging material. So everything is recycled. In India, we need to have such laws. Now, India has implemented a lot of laws now for sustainability across wastewater treatment, across energy utilization, around plastic packaging, but a lot of implementation needs to take place. We are seeing a movement on this front. I would say that there are some small shifts, but I think we literally are in a phase where this acceleration needs to happen and the awareness needs to be created.
Yes, thank you. As you said, awareness needs to be created, and I feel that comes around as a part of education as well, which brings me to my next question for you, Siddharth. You've been an integral part of the Neeta Lulla School of Fashion. Can you share your thoughts on the importance of high quality design courses and how they can help to shape the future of designers in India and get them to actually implement good business practices?
So, the entire implementation of design education and innovation is very crucial given the times that we are in. And just to give you a very practical example, earlier, businesses would take 20 years to set up, and people were happy with that. Then we were in a generation where it took 10 years, and we had a stable business. Today, in a span of 3 years, you know if a business is going to succeed or it's not going to succeed. There's so much of change really happening. Earlier when people were trained, there were certain mechanical jobs that a lot of people would do, and they would spend their entire life doing that. Today, a lot of these mechanical jobs are taken over by computers. You're seeing robots coming in. You're seeing a lot of automation happening in factories. So then the question really is then, what is the skill set that we as humans need to be really strong at or good at? And that too in a world where we may be competing with artificial intelligence moving forward, and that is going to happen. So design and innovation really is the key. The thing is, when it comes to strategic thinking, strategic design and innovation, those are really skill sets, or those are really aspects that need to be educated. While I do come from a fashion background, I'm not going to restrict this specific point on fashion design education. But the core is that when it comes to, let's say, designing new age materials, like Raina mentioned, sustainability, technical textiles, designing, creating different softwares which are more innovative in nature. It's core to ensure that today's youth is scaled with design and innovation, because the kind of companies that he's going to be working for will require skill sets which are not being taught by our education institutes today. A lot of people prefer going to use a Coursera or looking at courses for YouTube because they make them skill ready for organizations like a Facebook, a Microsoft, an Alphabet. And these companies usually have skills which are not taught in Indian education systems. And this is something that we need to imbibe in our education processes.
Right. Thank you. Um, Thank you for that wonderful answer. I'm sure, coming from the space you come from, the prime importance of you dig into education, especially in the field of fashion now that we have to compete even with something like AI. Rena, my next question is for you. In your book, you've stressed significantly on the importance of design and innovation. And we just spoke about that with Siddharth. You have mentioned that design is a talent that India must harness to move up the value chain and take its products to the next level. What do you exactly mean by this? And where do we really stand globally right now?
So everything everything around us is designed. Mobile phones, bags, crockery, elevators, automobiles, highways, you name it. And there's been a thoughtful decision behind how and why it is made the way it is. Everything goes through a design process. It's not about improving an aesthetic appeal, but design is also important to resolve functionality issues for the end user. So, in simple terms, the true value of design also lies in its ability to make one's life easy. Design is a talent. The line that you've picked up from my book, I think it goes like design is a talent that India must harness to move up the value chain so that it can take its products to the next level. What I mean by this is that it is a talent, design is a talent in which we do not fall short in India. And design is growing as a sector, even domestically. We have to think about whether the the only thought that keeps coming to my mind is that are we truly capitalizing on its potential? So let me read like a few lines from my book which I had written on this. I've kept the page ready. So okay, I have the same thing. I can, yeah. So just as the most sophisticated mastery of weaving techniques are often only seen in India's remote villages, West Bengal's creative geniuses, the pandal makers, can match up against the best set designers in the world and come out on top. This motley group of artisans, masons, painters, carpenters, and electricians are known to build magnificent pandals during the Durga Puja, an event that attracts an average of 150,000 visitors a day. The work is so intricate that it has drawn acclaim from around the world, with the Durga Puja festival even being selected as India's 2020 nomination to be featured in UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list. So, one of the most significant developments of the Indian economy in and since the 1990s, apart, what I'm trying to do here is like, showcase the different the I'm trying to say that we really do not fall short. We have the talent, we have the capabilities, and I'm just giving you a few examples. So one was about the pandal makers, and the next would be since 1990s I wanted to talk about the software industry where we've really done extremely well. And several software companies today, large, small, work on international projects and deliver world class results. It has been found that Indian born entrepreneurs had founded 7% of all Silicon Valley startups between 1980 to 1998. And some of the most popular global apps like Zomato, Paytm, LinkedIn Pulse have all been designed by Indians. So, what we as Indians need to realize is that good talent is not cheap, but the cost of bad design is pretty high. And our left brained attitude towards this vital service prevents us from being able to harness the gold mine of creative talent we have at our disposal. Our designers are comparable with the best across the world. And I cannot emphasize enough on the fact that design needs to be strengthened, and millennials looking to join universities in the next few years must be encouraged to think in this direction, to choose design as a career option. And we truly have all capabilities to become the design powerhouse of the world.
Thank you, Rena. Yes, finally, so that one can not only say made in India, but also designed in
Right.
India. That's the new way forward now. Siddharth, coming back to you, India's heritage of textiles and craft culture is symbolic worldwide. We have really excelled in this field and have come a long way over the last 7 decades. The textile and fashion industry in India is truly one of those that stands with the concept of the Aatmanirbhar Bharat and form a crucial part of the Indian economy right now. What, according to you, are the factors that act as an impediment to growth for this industry as of today?
Uh, so, first of all, when it comes to textiles in India, we do speak a lot about handmade Indian textile, but what we also need to take into consideration that textiles has really got two key components to it, and we need to be strong in both of them. So one is handmade Indian textiles, our Indian handicrafts, and the second is also synthetic textiles or man-made, machine-made textiles, our synthetic textiles. And I'll come to the difference between both of them. But since you asked me what is it that's really impeding the growth of textiles in India, uh, so I would say that some of the things which are really holding back the industry today are your higher taxes, which are on the synthetic or the scalable textiles, the high cost of raw material import, cheaper imports, much cheaper imports. Uh, Plus, we have state and central taxes that are levied, resulting in Indian yarn becoming non-competitive in the global marketplace. Uh, there are high costs of raw material, and also India is not part of a lot of free trade agreements. Thanks to the current government that we have, we made a lot of progress with respect to the bilateral treaties that we've signed. But at the same time, we've also lost out on a lot of free trade agreements, which have rendered our products non-competitive in global markets. Now, the key issue really is that when there is a focus on Indian textiles, the entire focus really comes on Indian handicrafts and handmade textiles. But the key concern also is that what people are really consuming is your synthetic textiles, which could be recycled as well. Now, today India is one of the largest consumers of handmade silk, like a Georgette or a crepe fabrics. We're importing it from China, but the cost of good quality Georgette is still a lot more cheaper than what we from what we import from China, basically what is produced in India itself. You know, we don't have scalable textiles. Efficiency of labor tends to be an issue. Globally we do see that the kind of uh, you know the speed of work by labor is much faster than in India. The kind of machinery that they use is a lot more advanced. We do look at building certain larger machinery factories, but a lot of these are normal size in some of the global markets that are really there. Things are changing very fast. At the same time, apart from regulation, I think it's also on us as youth to kind of think of going a little bigger in our vision and adopting technologies or looking at new age innovative materials that could be manufactured in India and sold to the global market.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Now we'll open the floor to questions from the audience. Um, and thank you both for answering all my questions so far.
Thank you so much, Simran.
We have one question first for Rena. Rena, amidst the myriad design functions, you have stressed on a lot of communication design. Is there any country specifically that inspires you in this field? And what are the learning points that we can draw from them and imbibe?
Yes, I have stressed a lot on communication design. I have a separate chapter just on communication design. In short, it just means basically, in simple terms, how we communicate via our designs. And which country? I'm very inspired with Japan as a country in the design space, whether it's furniture, lights, vehicles, electrical goods, musical instruments, posters, whatever it is. I mean, I think they are they're really out there. And there was one book that I had, an article actually that I read recently by this author Naomi Pollock, and she's written a lot of books on Japan, and one of her book, which is titled as Japanese Design since 1945. Talks about the remarkable achievements in the space of design in the post-war period of Japan. And she goes ahead and she says that something like good design is found everywhere in the country, in shops, offices, homes, everywhere. And they don't have any distinction between the amount of attention paid to a high end good or a everyday low cost product. The way they look at it is equal. And they have immense emphasis on craft and absolute attention to detail. And the best part is the entire country functions in a similar way. It's truly very inspiring.
Thank you. We have another question now for Siddharth this time around.
Sure.
Siddharth, the government of India is running so many campaigns under the aegis of our textile minister, Smriti Irani. One of the most popular ones being Project Shaw. Then we have Sadhguru has gone all out to say save the wheat. That's his campaign. At the same time, as a part of our economic growth, we have several international brands that pave their way into India right now. The consumer today has a lot of choices. What, as per you, should be the modus operandi to ensure that we capitalize on both segments? How can we eat the cake and have it too?
But that's a great question. I think that's what everyone wants to do, right? But on a serious note, so the Sure agenda and Save the Weave are two very different concepts. Now, Sure essentially is a sustainable resolution which has been signed by 16 fashion and textile brands, and Sure is very much aligned to ensuring that India, can become a major textile and manufacturing hub globally. The reason being is that globally, most of the brands which are there, if you look at H&M, you look at Zara, you look at Patagonia, a lot of them are sourcing their raw materials and textiles from India. Now, most of these manufacturers, if you look at Birla Cellulose, you look at American Textiles, have to adopt sustainability measures because they're catering to these global brands. And the Sure memorandum which is there, focuses on ensuring that the implementation of some of the sustainable practices by Indian manufacturers takes place. So automatically you have Indian manufacturers which are now going to be ready to cater to global counterparts who are anyways looking at suppliers who can meet some of the global standards that they have set for themselves or help them achieve their sustainability targets. This is going to have a snowball effect because eventually a lot of these manufacturers also do contract a lot of work to MSMEs. So they will ensure that a lot of MSMEs also start following some of these sustainable practices. Now, to ensure that the MSMEs are following sustainable practices, you will have a lot of assessment tools coming in. So Raina did mention one assessment tool which was for climate and which was for environment. At the same time, we also have other tools which are like, let's say, the Higg Index. You have the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, indexes which are going to be adopted by a lot of MSMEs to capture data points across the entire value chain, which includes your water conservation, which ensures your the amount of energy expending, the quality of dyeing and finishing. And I'm not really sure if a lot of people are aware, but there is also some very interesting work happening around blockchain-based traceability, which basically means using a blockchain technology to ensure that sustainable practices have been adopted during the entire value chain of manufacturing, right from a farm level, going to a consumer level, and the consumer can just use a barcode and read exactly how that product was manufactured. So H&M globally is running experiments on this as of now. So the Sure agenda is a very good step in that direction. Uh, Save the Weave initiative by Sadhguruji is another initiative which is focused on promoting handmade or natural fibers and natural textiles, which again is very crucial because at the same time, we also need to ensure that a lot of our Indian artisans, Indian workers, get employment. Our products are sold globally, and Indian handmade products, while not scalable in terms of quantity, because it's very difficult to get the same design on multiple pieces. This can happen in synthetic pieces. Have got a lot of appreciation globally. So if we can, follow a movement like this, ensure that our products are packaged extremely well, showcased well globally. There's a lot that our artisans can gain out of that. And I think in this way we can, like you said, get the best of both worlds.
Thank you. Yes, if you can speak a little more about the blockchain technology and when do you think it will actually come into play in this sector specifically?
So the key really, Simmer, is not blockchain. Blockchain is just a technology. The key is traceability. And the reason we're seeing traceability is that today global brands, for example, let's just say Welspun is supplying Egyptian cotton globally to IKEA, right? But how do you ensure that the cotton that is supplied is Egyptian cotton? At the same time, a lot of companies need to ensure that their workers are, so if you say organic cotton, how do you ensure that the cotton is really grown organically? In terms of how the soil conditions right, there wasn't any chemicals or fertilizers used, or how do you ensure that the entire process was done ethically across the value chain, the quality of dyes and fabrics were used, were sustainable in nature. So blockchain essentially is the technology which captures that because it's a decentralized technology. So you've got data points coming from various multiple different sources. So at a consumer level, also they're consuming products which come from a single manufacturer, but are being used by multiple brands. They come to know what the source of that textile really is. So the key really is implementing traceability across the supply chain. But I would still say that for us, for this to become a standard practice, we are literally a decade away. But for it to be adopted as pilots and in small stages to see the results, I think we're just a couple of years away from that. And globally, pilots are taking place. India, we already have 3-4 really solid companies which are doing some good work around blockchain-based traceability because Indian manufacturers are being forced to provide this information to their global buyers.
Thank you. Rena, I do have one last question for you before we end our session.
Sure.
What is your take on the latest draft environmental impact assessment, the EIA, that notification by the government of India?
So the EIA is it has found itself in a lot of controversies this year after the draft rollout. The environmental impact assessment. So the government of India claims that their amended version will bring in an online system. They will standardize the process, increase the efficiencies, and it will eventually lead to expedited outcomes. However, we know recently the draft has come under severe criticism from the opposition, environmental activists, civil society groups, because somewhere it seems to make the assessment process less stringent, allowing for many exemptions and diluting certain guidelines. So, honestly, the government has given assurances that they will ease, that easing of certain aspects at this stage will be taken care of. Will be matched with more rigorous and extensive monitoring in place. So the overall level of environmental compliance will not be diminished. So my take here would be, it would just be that I would have the faith in the government and I would wait and see how well we are able to execute the extensive monitoring in this case.
That's great. Thank you. I think that's all the time we have for questions from the audience. If there are any more, we will possibly answer them on the Facebook forum.
Okay.
Thank you, Rena, and thank you, Siddharth, for being here and for your time and for these lovely answers. It's been very enlightening.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Rena, for writing such a wonderful, wonderful book.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you.
I think you really made optimal use of the lockdown. It puts a lot of us to shame. I
I
can speak for
did.
myself on that front. And
Yeah.
Simmer, it's such a pleasure to discuss with you. Thank you for those amazing questions. Really got me to think quite a bit.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you.
I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Crossword bookstores for this session. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
And the
Bye bye.
Thank you.